December 1773, Boston Harbor, middle of the night. A group of grown men, dressed as Mohawk warriors, and folks, we are talking a Halloween costume from the gas station level of commitment here, climbs onto 3 ships and starts throwing tea into the ocean. Crate after crate. $1.5 million worth in today's money. And here's the thing. This is the most polite moment in tonight's entire story. How? How does the most powerful empire on earth get its own law-abiding, tax-paying, church-going subjects to a place where they're destroying beverages at midnight and calling it patriotism? I'll give you the answer right now, and then I'll spend the video proving it. It didn't start with liberty. It started with a bill. Britain won a massive war and then sent the bill to the wrong address. For the next 15 years, both sides proceed to do everything wrong in order, like they're working through a checklist. And by the end, the world's strongest empire loses its best colony. A brand new country is born, and that bill, remember the bill is the main character, quietly floats across the ocean and detonates a completely different country. Get comfortable. We'll be back in this harbor soon. But first, let's rewind 10 years to the good times. 1763. Britain has just beaten France in what is basically World War Zero and thrown her out of North America entirely. The empire on which the sun never sets. Standing ovation. Small problem. The sun, it turns out, bills by the hour. The war has doubled Britain's national debt. So the empire on which the sun never sets looks at its bank statement and goes pale. Sunshine is free. A navy is very much not. And in London, someone has an idea that sounds completely reasonable right up until you say it out loud. Follow the logic. We fought that war to protect the American colonists, didn't we? We did. So the colonists should help pay for it. Just a little something. It's the least they can do, really. First attempt. The Stamp Act, a tax on paper, all paper, newspapers, contracts, playing cards, your diploma. If it's flat and you can write on it, His Majesty would like a cut. And the colonists respond with the phrase you're going to hear until the end of this video. No taxation without representation. Translation, there is not a single seat for us in Parliament. So we're paying taxes we never voted for, passed by men we've never met, in a building we're not allowed into. Cool system. Love it. London's response is a genuine masterpiece of corporate thinking. You have virtual representation. See, Parliament represents all subjects of the crown, even the ones nobody asked, in spirit, remotely. It's the 18th century version of your call is very important to us. The colonists made a counteroffer. Fine, then we'll pay our taxes virtually too. Weirdly, that's where London stopped appreciating the concept. Let's write this down as London's move number 1. And yes, keep count with me. There's a whole collection coming. Money problem? Add a tax. Tax made everything worse? Obviously the tax was too small. Add another one. Britain is going to keep smashing this exact button for the entire video, genuinely shocked every single time it electrocutes her. If you've ever met management, you know this button. The boycotts work, and the Stamp Act gets repealed. But London attaches a little note saying that technically it can tax the colonies whenever it wants, for whatever it wants. It's just choosing to be nice right now. Which is like apologizing with, I'm sorry you feel that way. Then a fresh round of duties shows up, and what sails back to London isn't revenue. It's rage with compound interest. Because this stopped being about money a long time ago. 2 pennies won't bankrupt anyone. 2 pennies is a receipt. And printed on the receipt it says, admit that I'm in charge. And that, unlike 2 pennies, is non-negotiable. The capital of all this attitude is one city in particular, Boston. Loud, stubborn, smells like fish, zero respect for authority. Basically the group chat where all the trouble starts. So London goes with move number 2. Unhappy city? Fill it with soldiers. This calms everyone down the way gasoline calms down a campfire. March 1770. A crowd is heckling a British guard post. Snowballs, ice chunks, insults about everyone's mothers. One soldier panics and fires. Then the others fire, and there are bodies in the snow. Stop. Pop quiz, just between us. How many people actually died in this street fight? The event that history remembers as the Boston Massacre. No Googling. Lock in your answer. 10 seconds. The correct answer is A, 5, which is a tragedy. But let's be honest, as massacres go, 5 is a rounding error. One street brawl, inflated into the defining atrocity of the age, because the revolution had something better than an army. It had a graphic designer. A silversmith named Paul Revere runs off an engraving, and by morning every colony is looking at the same image, a firing line of uniformed villains executing innocent civilians. Blood, smoke, horror. What actually happened? A fight outside a guardhouse that got out of hand. What the caption said, massacre. The difference between those two isn't facts, it's marketing. Remember this trick, tiny fact, giant headline, because it is still, to this day, how everything works. London, meanwhile, backs down again and repeals almost everything. It keeps exactly one tax, on tea, purely out of spite. Repealing all of them would mean admitting it was wrong, and empires don't do apologies. And it's this one tiny, petty, principled little tea tax that's going to burn the whole thing down. 1773. The East India Company is too big to fail, 18th century edition. So to bail it out, London lets it sell tea directly to the colonies, cutting out the middlemen, which makes the tea cheaper than before. Sounds like a gift, right? Read the fine print. The tax is still baked into the price. So the actual offer is, here's a discount, and by accepting it, you agree we have the right to tax you. Cheaper tea, terms and conditions apply. Thanks, London. Choke on the discount. And now that midnight tea party makes sense. December 16th, the Mohawks, whom literally everyone in town recognizes, hi Steve, nice blanket, board the ships and dump the entire cargo. 342 crates. The harbor steeps. Understand, this is not a food riot. This is a very sober, very expensive statement. We would rather throw it in the ocean than sign your terms of service. London's patience finally snaps. Move number 3. Punish one so hard that everyone else falls in line. Out come the laws the colonists named the Intolerable Acts, which, quick branding note, is what happens when you let your victims name your legislation. Boston Harbor. Closed until every leaf of tea is paid for. Massachusetts self-government? Gutted. Oh, and soldiers can now be quartered in private homes. The plan? Make an example of one arrogant city. The result? 13 colonies simultaneously thinking the same thought. If they can do that to Boston, we're next. Notice the move backfired. Just like the previous two. At this point, it's not bad luck. It's a business model. And then something happens that America had failed to do on its own for decades. 13 colonies that could not stand each other sit down at one table. Massachusetts thought Virginia was a plantation with an ego. Virginia thought Massachusetts was a church with a navy. And yet, here they all are. You know who finally united them? Not the founding fathers. London united them through sheer industrial-grade incompetence. Britain did more for American unity than every American hero combined, free of charge and completely by accident. April 1775. The British commander in Boston plans a quiet little operation. Confiscate the militia's weapon stash in a town called Concord. In and out. 20 minutes. Nobody has to know. Except the colonists do know. Riders have been galloping through every village all night, and at sunrise, outside a town called Lexington, the British column walks into a line of militiamen standing on the village green. Nobody knows who fired first. To this day. But a shot rang out. They'd call it the shot heard round the world. And for once, that's not hype. This one bang on a village lawn starts a war that redraws the map of the planet inside 8 years. The British finish the job in Concord and start the march home. And that's when they get introduced to a brand new genre of warfare. The entire road back, from behind every fence, every tree, every barn, invisible farmers keep firing and then simply evaporating. No formation, no battlefield, nobody to accept your surrender or hear your complaint. The British Army is experiencing for the first time something a certain old friend of ours will experience in Spain 30 years later. When you're fighting the land and everyone on it, there's nobody to actually defeat. So naturally, London goes with move number 4. If farmers are shooting at you from behind fences, ship the biggest, most expensive army in your history across 3,000 miles of ocean to fight the fences. Write this move down. The invoice for it shows up at the end of the video. That summer, Bunker Hill. Technically, a British win. They take the hill. They also lose over 1,000 men taking it, and their own general delivers the quote of the century. A few more such victories, and we shall lose this war. Pin that sentence to the wall, because in this war, winning battles and winning the war are about to become two entirely different careers. Congress needs a commander-in-chief, and they pick a rich Virginia planter named George Washington. Real talk. As a battlefield general, he's mid. Over the course of this war, he will lose more battles than he wins. But he has one skill worth more than victories. Whatever happens, he does not lose the army. His genius isn't the attack. His genius is the getaway. And as long as the army exists, the cause exists. Never in history has being good at running away been worth this much. And in July 1776, Congress crosses the point of no return. The Declaration of Independence. Jefferson writes the sentence that outlives them all. All men are created equal. One sentence, and monarchy, as a concept, goes in the trash on both sides of the Atlantic. Now for the honest asterisk, because without it, this video would be lying to you. The man who wrote All Men Are Created Equal owned people while he wrote it. Over 600 of them across his lifetime. Nearly half the signers of the Declaration were slaveholders too. The greatest sentence about equality ever written was written by a hand that had every financial incentive to keep equality strictly theoretical. Liberty shipped with fine print, and America would keep paying for that fine print in blood for another century. So here's a real question while we keep moving. All men are created equal, written by a slaveholder. Is that hypocrisy that poisons the whole document, or a first step the authors themselves couldn't live up to, but that would one day force their descendants to make it true? Where's your line? Put it in the comments. We're coming back to this at the end. Okay, down from the podium, into the mud, because on the actual ground, Washington is getting wrecked. The British land their biggest army of the war, blow him out of New York, and chase him across New Jersey. His army is evaporating in real time. Desertions, expiring enlistments, guys just walking home because the farm isn't going to plow itself. By December 1776, the entire glorious cause of liberty is being carried by a few thousand freezing, furious men, a lot of them with no shoes. So Washington plays the only card he has left, the desperate one. On Christmas night, he ferries what's left of his army across an ice-jammed river, and at dawn, drops in on a garrison of German mercenaries in Trenton who were, reasonably, sleeping off the holiday. Is it a big victory? No, it's tiny. But at the exact moment everything was collapsing, it proves one thing to everyone watching. These ragged, shoeless lunatics can still bite. Then, 1777. The turning point. At Saratoga, an entire British army gets surrounded and surrenders. The whole thing. All of it. And the real explosion isn't in America. It's in Paris, where this news is being read very, very carefully. Because France has spent the last 15 years nursing a grudge about the last war, with exactly one dream: payback. And Saratoga is the proof France has been waiting for. These Americans aren't a charity case. They're an investment. And by the way, the man working the room at Versailles is not some random diplomat. America sent its absolute final boss of negotiation, Benjamin Franklin. Yes, that Franklin. The grandpa on the $100 bill, which, if you think about it, is the greatest irony of this entire war. The man who talked Europe into funding the revolution literally became the money. That's not a career. That's a speed run. So France enters the war, officially, for liberty and the rights of man. Actually, to ruin Britain's decade. Louis XVI borrows money he absolutely does not have to bankroll somebody else's revolution. 3 guesses whose revolution is next. You won't need 2 of them. From France come money, a fleet, cannon, and volunteers, including a 19-year-old Marquis named Lafayette, enormous fortune, 0 combat experience, and the unshakable energy of a golden retriever who has just discovered democracy. Washington basically adopts him. Remember this, kid. He's going to go home carrying one very contagious idea: that a people can fire their king, and find out that ideas like that don't stay in your luggage. But that, as you already know, is our very first video. Meanwhile, Valley Forge. A winter camp where the army isn't fighting anybody, it's just trying not to die. Hunger, typhus, snow. 1/3 of the men have no shoes. You could track the army by the bloody footprints. And in the middle of this frozen misery, a Prussian officer named von Steuben does what no battle could. He drills this crowd into an actual army. Militiamen limped into that camp. Soldiers marched out of it. 1781. Lord Cornwallis digs his British army in on the coast, at a little tobacco port called Yorktown. Calmly, because if anything goes wrong, the Royal Navy just picks everyone up by sea. Great plan, genuinely. One flaw: this time, the sea is French. Watch the trap close. On land, Yorktown gets boxed in by Washington and a French army. And at sea, at the exact spot where the British rescue fleet is supposed to appear, the French fleet parks itself and politely says, "Full." For the first time in the entire war, Britain's trump card, the ocean itself, is face down on the table. And the invincible mistress of the seas is now sitting in a mousetrap she spent 20 years building. For herself. Cornwallis surrenders. And legend says that at the ceremony, the British military band played a tune called "The World Turned Upside Down." Sometimes history writes its own jokes, and you just get out of the way. The empire that ruled the oceans has lost a land war to farmers. Because on the one day that decided everything, the ocean took the farmer's side. As for move number 5, London never got to use it. It ran out of colonies. 1783, the Peace of Paris. Britain signs the paper. The United States of America are free. A new country exists. Flags, fireworks, roll credits. Oh, and one footnote in the margins that I refuse to keep from you. That same year, 1783, somewhere on Corsica, a 14-year-old cadet with an Italian accent and terrible grades in everything except math is reading the newspapers about this war very, very carefully. You already know everything about him. He doesn't know anything about himself yet. Except the story isn't over. Because remember the bill? Minute 1? The war bill Britain couldn't pay and tried to forward to the colonies. It never got paid. It just changed continents. France, in the process of getting her revenge, spent over 1 billion livres on American liberty, money she never had. So now the bankrupt party isn't London, it's Paris. 6 years later, a France ruined by the price of somebody else's freedom will call the Estates General to scrape up cash, and you have already seen how that ends in the very first video on this channel. Nothing saves the king now. So what actually happened here? Britain wanted someone else to pay for her war and lost a continent. France wanted revenge and paid for another nation's freedom with her own monarchy. And the colonists, who started with nothing more ambitious than "we're not paying 2 pennies for tea," walked away with a country. In this story, history is literally a bill being passed around the table, and whoever's holding it when the music stops is the one who burns. And you know the best part? All men are created equal turned out to work exactly like the tea. They threw it overboard, set it loose, and there's no getting it back in the crate. That idea sails from America to France and from France everywhere else, and for the next 200 years, it keeps knocking over thrones, including, eventually, the thrones of the people who wrote it. Liberty, like tea, is easy to dump in the ocean. Getting it back out? Nobody's ever managed. So let's settle that question from the middle of the video. You have all the facts now. All men are created equal. Written by the hand of a slaveholder. Foundation or crack in the foundation? Vote in the comments. I read every single one. It's a problem, honestly. And what's next? That's your call again. There's a stack of stories on my desk, and every one of them is about somebody breaking everything again. The kings who beat Napoleon, sitting down at one table to redraw Europe with a ruler, and accidentally scheduling the next 100 years of wars. One spark in the Balkans that sets the entire planet on fire. And a couple more that I'm not even going to tease properly. Tell me in the comments which one you want first, and subscribe so you don't miss it. Whatever you pick, I can promise you one thing. Somebody in that story tries to save money on taxes. Every single time.